Page 56, Pachelbel Canon. We're in C major, this arrangement is. No sharps or flats, that's fine. We're using all the white keys. Let's get some tricky things going on. Let's take it one hand at a time here, starting with the right hand. Right hand doesn't play the first line, it comes in on measure 5. You're here, and they're just half notes. 2, 3, 4, cross over. However, when you get to measure 8, the last measure of the line, instead of 3, I suggest you use the thumb. This way you're in position, because you need 4th finger on the E coming up. Here. I don't want to go here and then here. No, so use the thumb on that note, on measure 8, the last note. You're 2, 1. Then 1 and 2, 3. Now, we got a sequence going down. A sequence is like a pattern that repeats going down or up the keyboard. Here, that's a sequence. And many times, most of the time, we prefer to finger each pattern the same if we can. Sometimes we have to start a little different or end it a little different, but otherwise we want it the same. I like to finger things in a way, if possible, where I can connect everything. It doesn't work well here. It just doesn't want to connect it. I'd have to do a 2 and then a 5. That's scrunchy. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and suggest, go ahead and use the fingering they've got. I don't like here. And then just lift up and move. I want 4th finger here. And I'm going to finger them the same way. Again, 4th. Until the end, they have 3rd. Alright, we can do that. I'm not crazy about that fingering, but it's kind of awkward. That's what it is. Then measure 13, or you got broken chords. It's another sequence. This thing is just sequences all over the place. And then 5th, and then 5th, 5th. So I'm fingering each of these the same. That works out. And then measure 16, broken chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and it's and 3, 1. Again, I take advantage of the repeated notes to change hand positions. Takes us over to measure 21. I don't know if you got all that, but you can work that out yourself. Measure 21. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and then going on at the end of the, it's measure 25, the end of the line here. Just lift up and move. And 4 again. Now you got a black key. Oh, there's got to be 1, don't you know? And then again, and then 1, 3. And now it's B natural here, because that B flat's only good for that measure. And then lift up and come up. Just broken chords. And then 5. It's another sequence. We fingered them the same. And then the 16th notes. 1 eanda, 2 eanda. Oh, here is 3 eanda, 4 eanda. 3 eanda, 4 eanda. And you can finger the last chord 1, 4 if you want. I mean, it's there. Or 1, 5. I'll leave that up to you. So that measure, the last 2 measures, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and 3 E and a 4 E and a. That time. Left hand, well, the left hand's pretty much got half notes all the way through. And this pattern in the beginning, get real comfortable with this because you're going to get it a lot. And if you can get it to where you don't have to look at your left hand or think about it much, it helps because you got enough to think about in the right hand. So it's just here, watch this fingering, just here, 3, then a 2, then a 3, come up. We connect it all, we connect everything, then it's the same fingering all the way through. Every time we do this, we're going to use the same fingering. And it just repeats itself. 1, 2, 3, isn't this fun? Until on page 57, when you get to what, measure 21, you're here, you're ending that pattern, and then you're coming all the way up to here. And now we're going to come down, and they want 1, 3 on all these. Except that That's fine if that's what you want to do. You can always you can also do a 2-4 and then a 1-3. Just so you don't have to do all the same thing. So it's measure 21 is here and then here, and then here, and then here. And then on measure 23, you can just use 5 and 3, stay where you are. Here if you want, and then come down. And do that pattern you were doing at the beginning. Put the hands together, starting with measure 5. When there's both here, watch these fingerings carefully. Here and then here. Now what I do when I learn something like this is I take it in bits and pieces. So it's like the first couple lines on page 56, that's just one piece. I can get this is just half notes. I can get this, I can work this out, make sure I can play this okay. And I'm halfway comfortable with it. And then I'll take the next piece, which would be the third line down. Here, and then here, and then here, and then here. Oh, third finger. And I'll work that line out. See, I'm taking each pattern here, one pattern at a time, and I'm getting it. And then after I get that, I'll go to the next one. Make sure this fingering in the left hand is the same that you've been doing. And I'll work that out. And then I'll go on to measure 17. Measure 21 is another one. And then measure 25 is another one. And then measure 29 is the last one. So you work that out, and I'll just take it a piece at a time. That's fine. See, the problem people have, and the pieces are getting more involved and getting longer, is every time you start to practice it, you'll always start at the beginning. Or here, maybe you'll start a measure 5 to where they come in together, and you'll always start there, but you won't always get all the way through it. So what ends up is the first part of the song ends up being practiced a lot. And then as you get further into it, it gets practiced less and less, which means you get worse and worse and worse at it. So I'll have to fight that. Take it a piece at a time and don't always start at the beginning. Take it, let's say, today I'm going to work on this section and just focus on that section and get that really, really, really good. Some people go the other way and they say, I'm going to start at the back of it. I'm going to work on that first. And then take the next section in front of it and work on that. It's like here, they would say, I'm going to start on, where does it, measure 29? I'm going to work on that here and get this part. Here, and I'll work on that part over and over and over until they get it. And once they have it, then they'll go back to the previous section, which I think is measure 25 is here. That way, they're ensuring that the further they get into it, the more comfortable they are with it. And that works for some people. Not everybody, but it works. But the point is, don't always start at the beginning and just focus on that every time. You got to find your hardest parts, the parts you can't play well, and that's where you start. That's where you focus on and work on those first, and then go back and try and get the other stuff. As far as the articulation goes in this piece, it's an arrangement of a piece hundreds of years ago. There was no articulation in it. The idea pretty much is just connect everything. You can't connect everything because you got awkward hand movements. So you can go ahead and follow the slurring in there, and if you have to lift up, you have to lift up. Otherwise, you connect it. Dynamics. Here, it pretty much applies to everything. We have multiple melodies. This ostinato pattern here, this is a melody, and we want to hear it too. So it's like a duet. measure 9, you got more people coming in. And it just gradually gets a little more involved. But here you can play both hands the same as far as dynamics go. And the dynamics, you have to decide what is soft, whatever you think soft is. And then measure 5, you come up just a little bit to sort of soft, both hands here. And then it's a little confusing the way they've written it. On measure 15, you see that little sideways? That tells you to get softer. This note, and then this note is softer. That may be an error, actually. You don't need that little arrow. You're going to get softer on measure 16. That's where you want to get softer, so it's here. There. And then you're going to start getting louder again. They don't tell you on measure 16 how much softer to get. You have to experiment and feel it. You can come down to moderately soft or soft if you feel it that way. And then you're going to go up to loud. But don't get loud to measure 19. Right there, that's loud. It's both hands too, but careful in the piano when you play low, it's easy to drown out what you're doing up here. So don't get too carried away with his left hand. You have to listen carefully. If you're starting to get too loud in the left hand, ease off a little bit. Yeah. So measure 19, you're loud. And now they just don't give you any decrescendo or diminuendo or anything. Just suddenly you're moderately soft. Well, all right, if you want. And then measure 25, you go up to moderately loud. Then you're going to crescendo up to loud for measure, what, 29? And then you get softer. And slow down. There's a retard onto there. So it's a... Yeah. You kind of got to get comfortable with it enough that you can feel these dynamics better. Speed, well, flowing. It's going to drag at the beginning. You're going to think, oh, this is slow. Keep in mind, this has to be the same speed throughout. And whenever you get over here on this, that's not exactly dragging, but this 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Decide how fast you want the hardest part to go, and that's how fast you take it, because the whole thing has to be the same speed until the end when you slow down, all the way through the same speed. Now they've added pedal on this, and that's kind of nice because we need some help with like the overtones. Otherwise, I don't really know that you need pedal because it gets mushy. It really does. You're not pedaling the first couple of lines because you can connect these fine and you want it clean. Because you're going to build up as you go through it. So you want to start out fairly soft. No pedal at all here at the beginning. Just connect them with the hands. But then measure 9, now we're going to start pedaling. This helps us connect the right hand. It's overlapping pedal. And the pedal goes down after the hands do their thing. It overlaps a little bit. So measure 13 again. Now this works because these broken chords are fine. But then when you get to measure 17, if it's too mushy for you, then change it on each beat. Here, here, change it. See, if you just lift the pedal up, let's go back to measure 17. If I just lift it up, I lose the overtones. And I'm building up here, it's loud. I don't want to lose the overtones, so I'm kind of stuck. I get the mushiness, or I change it on each beat. One or the other, take your pick. A lot of times in piano, the pedaling is a give and take. You gain one thing, but you're losing something else. So what do you want? Where's the balance at? That you have to decide, or your teacher will decide for you, and you experiment and listen to it. What's okay and not okay. So that's kind of what I'm suggesting. Maybe on measure 17 on that, for the eighth notes, pedal every beat here. On measure 19, that's fine. But on measure 21 again, I'm going to have to pedal each beat. And again, all the way through on these, I'm going to have to pedal each beat. Until measure 29, finally it's broken chords, and it's okay there. But don't pedal this a little bit. Don't pedal the 16th notes. This is a trill with a turn on the end. So don't pedal that. Although you pedal the last measure, of course. That's my impression of it. You have to experiment with it. I'd like to play it with you very slowly to double check all the notes and stuff. I'm not going to do any dynamics. I'll pedal it as I suggested. Let's see, I'll give us 4 counts. It's going to seem a little slow at the beginning, but that's because we got 8th notes and 16th notes coming, and I want to take the whole thing at one speed. So yes, it's going to be slow at the beginning. The thing we use in piano to help us when we got to play slow and we have a tendency to want to speed up is we'll subdivide the beat, count it to ourselves and subdivide the beat, and that helps us to keep it slow. So at the beginning, when you're thinking about this here, 1, 2, 1, that's really slow. But if you'll think of it in 8th notes instead, it's not quite so bad. So it's 1 and 2 and 1 and. Think of 8th notes throughout that. Now, hopefully will help you keep it slow. 1 and 2 and ready and go and 1 and 2 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 4 and 4 and 4 and 2, and 2, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and